Hello, Kipsters. Please make sure that you have taken your seat silently and gotten immediately to work on your lesson. Today, you will not be ripping off your activator to turn in because you have homework on the back of it. So as soon as you finish your activator, you may go ahead and rip it off and put it away so that your homework can be collected on Monday. Remember that you are not allowed to level up past varsity if you do not have 100% homework completion. Please have out on your desk the homework from yesterday so that it can be collected. Let's go ahead and jump into our notes once you've put away your homework. If there's time at the end of class, you may work on it then. Explore. Imagine that you own a business. You have owned your business for about 10 years and have paid your taxes every year and have been a good citizen of the country your entire life. You've even sold products to the national government, the government of the entire country. The country, however, is now in a recession, and prices have increased, so people are not buying your products, and the cost to produce your product has increased. The national government owes you money for products that they bought but did not pay for. The government has said that they will not be able to repay you. Because of this, you've had to borrow money from the bank to keep your business open, but now you have to repay the money, and you don't have enough to repay the loan you borrowed. You'll be put in jail in 1 week, and your house and business will be taken from you if the money isn't repaid. Whose fault is it that you are about to be put in jail for not repaying your loan? Do you think it is fair that you are being put in jail for not repaying your loan? Why? Do you think any natural rights have been violated? Which rights? If you were in this situation, what would you do? To help us understand our lesson today, you need to copy down the following terms. Please mark them down on your paper. Rebellion, an act of violence or open resistance to an established government or ruler. Shays Rebellion in 1787, poor farmers from western Massachusetts rebelled and fought against high taxes, led by Daniel Shays, in an attempt to seize the arms stockpiled at the Springfield Armory. Constitution, a set of basic laws or principles for a country that describes the rights and duties of its citizens and the way in which it is governed. United States Constitution, a document that embodies the fundamental laws and principles by which the United States is governed. It was drafted by the Constitutional Convention and later supplemented by the Bill of Rights and other amendments. Northwest Ordinance, a law passed in 1787 to regulate the settlement of the Northwest Territory, which eventually was divided into several states of the Middle West. As soon as you've copied those definitions, please track as I read out loud our text. Shays Rebellion. The new nation had many serious problems under the Articles of Confederation. The states reacted to the money shortage by printing their own paper currency, and before long, bills of different sizes and colors were distributed from state to state. No one knew what any of these currencies was worth, but most agreed they were not worth much. Massachusetts farmers rebel. The money shortage was particularly hard on farmers who could not earn enough to pay their debts and taxes. In Massachusetts, state laws were passed that raised property qualifications for voting. People couldn't vote if they didn't own enough land. In addition, only the very wealthy could hold state office. Farmers who could not pay their debts were angry that state lawmakers did nothing to help them. A countryman named Plow Jogger spoke up at a meeting to say how the government had mistreated him and what he wanted to do about it. I have been greatly abused, have been obliged to do more than my part in the war, have been loaded with class rates, taxes, town rates, province rates, and had my cattle sold for less than what they were worth. I think it's time for us to rise up and put a stop to it. Some of the farmers were veterans of the Revolutionary War, but when the war ended, they did not receive their pay in cash. They were in debt, but they had no money. Large armed groups marched to courthouse steps, keeping the courts from carrying out their actions. Farmers' mobs also broke into jails to free imprisoned debtors. Explain why were farmers upset in a complete sentence. The political leaders of Massachusetts became alarmed. Samuel Adams, who had acted against the British government in Boston, now insisted that people stay within the law. The farmers asked, "Didn't you act illegally yourself in the Revolution?" Daniel Shays was a poor farmhand when the Revolutionary War broke out. He joined the Patriot cause and fought at Lexington, but quit because he had not been paid. He found himself in court because he could not pay his debts. He saw the same thing happening to others. When the Massachusetts Supreme Court charged leaders of the Farmers' Rebellion with crimes, Shays organized 700 armed farmers, mostly veterans. As they marched toward the courthouse, others joined them. The judges cut the court session short. The farmers kept up the pressure, but the winter snows began to interfere with their trips to the courthouses. The Boston merchants raised money to pay for an army to take the field against the farmers. The rebels were outnumbered and on the run. Shays fled to Vermont. Some of his followers surrendered. A few died in battle. Others burned authorities' barns or killing a general's horse. After finding himself charged with a crime, Shays finished the sentence. Captured rebels were put on trial. Although Shays was later pardoned, a dozen were sentenced to die. Sam Adams claimed that there was a difference between rebelling against a king, as he had done, and the farmers' uprising. Treason against a king might be pardoned, Adams said, but the man who dares rebel against the laws of a republic ought to suffer death. Thomas Jefferson felt differently. He thought that such uprisings were healthy for society. Jefferson wrote, "I hold it that a little rebellion now and then is a good thing. It is medicine necessary for the sound health of government." Do you agree with Sam Adams or Thomas Jefferson? Explain your thinking in a complete sentence. But the political and economic leaders of the new nation did not share Jefferson's views. They feared a revolt would spread and that the poor would demand a share of the rich people's property. These fears were in the minds of those who wrote the U.S. Constitution. In the box below, write down the cause of Shays' Rebellion and the effects of Shays' Rebellion. Remember, a cause is why something happened. An effect is what happened. So why did Shays' Rebellion happen? And what happened as a result of Shays' Rebellion? Once you finish filling in those boxes, let's do a quick fact check. Farmers in Massachusetts were angry because their farm prices were low, and when farmers could not pay their debts, many lost their farms and homes. Farmers felt the government was not protecting their rights or freedoms. The farmers, led by Daniel Shay, closed down courts and then tried to take over a national arsenal of weapons. People were asking how the country could exist if it could not support their people. After Shays' Rebellion, Congress called for a Congress to discuss a way to fix the Articles of Confederation to prevent further problems like those encountered during Shays' Rebellion. The events of Shays' Rebellion forced people to examine the problems of the government. Is a new constitution needed? Imagine that your state is preparing to select representatives to send to the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. This was what they were going to do to try and address the problems that came from the Articles of Confederation. Your state has to decide what position its representatives will take regarding the Articles of Confederation. A heated debate is taking place. Some people argue that the Articles are fine as they are. Some people want to make changes to the Articles. Others want to throw away the Articles and write a new constitution. Write down your arguments to keep the Articles of Confederation, or write down your arguments to change the Articles of Confederation. You should have at least 3 bullet points on either side to defend your argument. Write a speech to present to the class arguing to keep the Articles of Confederation or to create a new Articles. Using the scale above, explain in a speech whether you think you should keep or change the Articles. Explain your selection using evidence from today and yesterday's lesson. Dear members of the convention, in order to have a quality speech, it should include and explain why the U.S. should keep the Articles of Confederation or create a new constitution. Have 2 to 3 reasons to support your side. Use text evidence to support your answer. Be logical and clear. Have proper punctuation and grammar. If presented, read loud enough for everyone to hear. Once you finish writing your speech, go ahead and flip to your exit ticket. Now, you'll be turning in your exit ticket, and both your exit ticket and your speech will be graded. Once you've completed your exit ticket, you may raise your hand for it to be collected. If there is time at the end of class, you may go ahead and work on your homework. That way you can get it done before the end of the weekend. If you have completely finished, you may log in to Lexia only.